So today's session's on managing successfully in the cost of living crisis. It's not the most exciting topic, but hopefully you'll get something out of it. Hopefully some of you know who we are, but we'll just do some brief introductions. So I'm Greg Guilford, I'm the CEO of HR Solutions, and this is Victoria Templeton, she's our HR Knowledge Manager. As a business, we've been going over 22 years. We're based in Kettering. We support over 800 SMEs with HR, payroll, and health and safety. And most recently, we are winners of the 2023 FIFA Gold Partner Award for the second time for customer service. We're trying to catch up with Wilson Brown and become platinum, but we've got to do 3 years in a row, so we're going to get there. So hopefully you know a little bit about us. That we are going to make this session as interactive as possible. There's lots of stuff on your desks, and there's a few things on the screen if you want to have your phone ready and check you've got internet connection. We're going high tech today. The other thing we've done is on your desks, we've recently run a SME business survey. So some of the statistics we're going to talk about are from that report. You can take that away, but there is a link if you wanted a digital copy as well. So very brief agenda, but we'll make it as fluid as we can in terms of engaging with you if you've got any questions as we go. But there is quite a bit of content to get through. So we're talking really about the top challenges for businesses in 2023. Victoria's going to talk about how to create a strategic HR plan to help deal with those, and then also a brief update on developments in employment law as well. So if you want a digital copy, you can scan that and get a digital copy of the SME report. Like I said, there is a hard copy on your desk. I'll just leave that there for a second if people are getting the phones out. So the other thing we're going to do is just, because I don't know, did anybody of you take part in the survey we ran? So what we wanted to just sense check with you, the audience today, how you feel about the current economic situation marries with our report. So we've just got a few QR codes for you to scan and take part in an interactive poll. You'll see the results straight away.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to work because Victoria's going to take over and do that bit.
This is where we're going to pilot the use of technology in our sessions. So we're going to ask you to answer this question, but what you need to do is if you either scan the QR code or go to www.menti.com, and all we need to do is ask you to put that PIN number in and then simply use one word to describe your biggest business challenge. Here we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
I know who it was.
So you use one word to describe your top biggest business challenge. So let's have a look. Has everybody had a chance to vote?
Yeah.
Or add your challenge? Okay, so we've got recruitment, budget, sales, money, talent, recruiting, bills and competition.
So money is turnover, is that what we're saying? Yeah? Money coming into the business from clients. Yeah. And then obviously recruitment's on there twice. If we group that, that's kind of the biggest one. And talent, sort of key theme is recruitment and talent coming from that brief point of view. These are kind of summarised some of the bullet points that are in the report. There's a lot more information in that report, but the major business challenges that sort of came out of the report were rising costs. Obviously, we ran this in November, so just sort of at that time, kind of content was what people were thinking about. Potential recession coming in and recruiting staff was 33%, so it's quite a high percentage of people saying that it's going to be a challenge. The other theme was around financial challenges, which 46% managing costs. Not only wage costs are increasing, but your energy costs, your rent, just driving to and from work, who's costing you more? Salary increases, as Wayne said, there's that push is naturally going to mean that you're either going to lose your margin in terms of the work you do, or you're going to have to increase your costs to your clients, which mean you might have less clients. And then obviously those all link to profitability as well. So And then the biggest impact on decision making, available finances. What we're seeing, a lot of people who took deferred VAT payments or PAYE payments during COVID, and COVID bounce back loans, and all of those kind of, the interest-free period kicked in, and businesses used it to get by, but now actually got a lot more overheads to sort of pay. So a lot of people are thinking about refinancing some of those loans, and if you're, with inflation going up, they're going to cost more than you maybe expected. And again, profitability is impacting on decision making. That might be whether you can afford to make those hiring decisions, and also whether you're closing your office. A lot of people have done that over the last couple of years and moved to home working because it saves money, but the employees typically like that arrangement as well, or most do. And then obviously inflation is rising every day. The numbers are going up, which obviously have an impact on all those things. We're going to talk about the asset of people management Victoria in a second. So just some ideas from us in terms of how to overcome these challenges. These are kind of the business aspects, and Victoria's going to do all the HR stuff. So managing rising costs, we kind of need to look at assessing your production and your supplier costs. Can you get a cheaper supplier somewhere else, or better value? It's not necessarily all about getting the cheaper price. It's what that supplier delivers for you, whether that helps you be more efficient in other areas. Managing your cash flows. Pre-COVID, a lot of people weren't really focusing on. They knew they were making money, but not necessarily understanding how. But cash flow is becoming an issue for some businesses because their clients are taking longer to pay. So if you haven't got that buffer to pay wages and all your other costs, you're going to need to sort of manage that and chase clients who are not paying on time. Do you know anyone good who can help you that way?
Sorry?
Do you know anybody good who can help you with debt collection?
I do, yes. Other law firms are available.
Disclaimer: we use Wilson Bound to help us with that debt collection. And then available finance. So try and plan in advance. Review if any other grants are available. That some of them are kicking around. You might consider apprenticeships in terms of hiring. You can get funding for some of those ideas. Not all roles will suit apprenticeships, but some might, if you're looking for sort of entry-level type roles. And then maybe outsourcing over recruiting in-house staff, particularly if it's a short-term demand. Maybe use of an agency worker might suit your needs better than rather than hiring a permanent member of staff. The inevitable salary increases is a topic of discussion. Normally they hit around December, January, and or March, April time with sort of typical financial years. But I would encourage you to just not put up prices, your salaries of staff, just for the sake of hiring. You can try and benchmark those to make sure you are not paying over the odds, because longer term it will price you out of the market in terms of supplying to your client base if you've got a higher cost base after this, because you can't really take them away. So you might want to think about being flexible in terms of how you reward staff, so that you might have a base salary and then a commission or bonus that is reliant on them doing something, or the company doing well, because then it flexes as the company performs well, rather than just having a higher basic salary. Where possible, think about a share save scheme that invests the employee to be committed to you as a company. If you do well, they do well. So it's just an additional incentive to consider. And then maybe you'll review your rewards and benefits. That a lot of companies have benefits out there that people are not using. So you might be able to stop those and give them something that they would prefer more, like an EAP scheme is popular when people are going through particularly difficult times, but some people might prefer a voucher scheme or a discounted shopping site that helps them a bit more during this sort of cost of living crisis.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, Greg, and often overlooked, because in my position, I could go to business and say, I need to replace my car. It's 12 years old. and that's a big expense. Is there any, you know, I don't expect you to provide me a car because, you know, that's unreasonable. Is there a tax efficient way of doing it? And to be fair, the firm went out and said, yeah, salary sacrifice on a leased car. You pay basically no income tax on it. It's all included, tyre servicing, the lot. And actually, for me, that was a really good thing. It saved me a lot of money.
Bigger firms you can do that. But smaller firms you struggle to get those types of car leasing, but you can do other things. Sometimes it's, you know, a push bike, for example, cycle to work scheme. But you might, bigger companies definitely, but smaller ones might struggle with that.
Absolutely, but there are firms out there, as I've discovered, they'll do from like, you know, 1 or 2 cars upwards. It doesn't have to be a fleet.
Well, they'll be good to share, because I think it's definitely a way to go, particularly if they're EV as well. There's a big demand for that at the moment.
No benefit in kind. Well, 2%. 2%.
So other benefits you know, might be around the company culture, and maybe it's a bit you know, social events, that kind of stuff, which some people like doing because it gets them out of the house, but it also brings a bit more of a culture into your organisations as well. So then just sort of around profitability, try and think about having a clear business plan. I know a lot of businesses, particularly small ones, when they start up, they do it because they're good at it, not necessarily have a plan as to how they're going to, you know, what's the long-term plan, are they going to grow, sell, hire more staff. Just think about where you want to go, because then you'll make better decisions in terms of that first hire, and focus on what makes money rather than what you think is a good job you're doing for a client. Motivate teams to achieve goals, and that might link back to, you know, bonus schemes that are all set up correctly to help incentivise your staff. And then obviously there's an option to explore new business streams in this environment, whether there's something else you can bolt on to what you're already doing to help you bring in a bit more money and maybe fill a gap where other services have declined. So I think now I'm passing over to Victoria.
Thank you. I've got the microphone here.
You can use that.
Yeah, I'll have the clicker. Thank you. And so I'm now going to focus on the people management side, and we're going to go through the SME survey report, some key statistics that have come through. And what we know is that 50% of our respondents felt that employee retention was their biggest people challenge going into 2023. And I'm sure all these are going to resonate with you all in your businesses. The second, 44%, was employee capability. We know there's skill shortages within the UK. And then finally, the 39% is company culture. So the company culture is vital because it underpins everything operationally. And so for many organisations, they felt that company culture going forward in 2023 was going to be the biggest challenge. Now, 85% responded saying mental health was their biggest health and safety challenge coming up for this year. So I've incorporated that in the people management side. There were other health and safety statistics in the report, but I just wanted to highlight the mental health, employee well-being. It's massive, it's increasing, it's getting worse, as you all know from what you hear in the news. And you may know of people in your organisations that are struggling with the financial crisis. You know, it's worsening people's mental health. And so 85% of our respondents felt that that was going to be their biggest health and safety challenge. And I just wanted to flag here that from a business perspective, in the questions that they were posed to our audience, recruiting and salary increases came up. And it's just really to illustrate how business and HR are really aligned. They go hand in hand. Without your people, which are your most important asset, you know, you're going to struggle in achieving those business goals. So I just wanted to highlight that, you know, on the business questions, actually HR themes came through. So I just want to talk through now in terms of what we would suggest as an approach to help you deal with the economic crisis, support your employees. And I think the first thing is around recognising that do you have the right workforce in place in terms of skills, capabilities, experiences? Do you have the right structures? Do you have the right job roles in the right places? You know, the right head count? This is going to be crucial for how you move forward in 2023 to help deal with these challenges that Greg's talked about. And so workforce planning is going to form a big part of your HR, people management and strategy going forward. When it comes to the HR strategy, then the issues that, you know, from the SME survey that we would recommend, you know, are incorporated is your recruitment issues, staff retention, the company culture, employee capability, competitive salaries, and mental health. Now, obviously, you've got to carry out a HR strategy in line with your own business. You know, you can do that through carrying out a SWOT analysis and understanding what are the particular challenges for you. But just as an illustration for today on the purpose of helping you sort of work out how you can manage your people cost effectively, then these are the main issues that have come up through our SME survey report. And I guess no doubt that you'll probably share concerns as well within your organisations on all of those areas. And then finally, in terms of having the HR strategy, it's about ensuring that you regularly assess it, review it, and just ensure it's still fit for purpose, it's working for you, and it's helping you achieve your business goals. And ways in which you can do that is through introducing employee engagement surveys, exit or even stay interviews. I don't know if any of you have heard of stay interviews, but that's certainly a question that's coming through from our clients, where they're trying to deal with retention challenges, and so they're looking to speak to the existing workforce to understand what it is that they like about their place of work, which can tie in, you know, as another way instead of an employee engagement survey. It's, I guess, similar initiatives. And then the recruitment survey. Why don't you ask candidates and applicants that apply to work for your organisation to gain some feedback on the process? Is it efficient? Did it give them all the information they need? And just using that information to help to see how you can improve your recruitment practices. And you start a feedback, so when somebody comes on board as part of the onboarding process, why don't you build in some form of activity to gain their feedback in terms of how they felt their experience, their, you know, the employee engagement and the employee experience going through the whole recruitment process, and onboarding as well is going to be really important. And then finally, benchmarking that Greg's referred to, internal and external. You know, you've got to make sure that salaries and reward is fair and equitable, and also competitive in the market that you operate. So I just want to run through quickly some ideas that we have for how you can tackle some of these challenges. So from a recruitment point of view, then it's about accessing a wider talent pool. So think about things like flexible hybrid working, because not only are you gaining greater access to more people, so you'll gain access to parents, working parents, individuals with disabilities, that if they had flexible working, that could get them back into work. So there's many different ways of accessing a wider talent pool, and using things like social media for your recruitment. You know, it's just giving you more scope to get the best talent. Apprenticeships that Greg's talked about. You know, we are in an era where recruitment is challenging, and also from the pandemic, young people were affected the most in terms of employment, and so using apprenticeships, not only does it help get young people into employment, but obviously you can then bring in young people to come in. You can develop and train them in line with your organisation, your standards, your policies, and it's an alternative to other recruitment practices. Quiet hiring, I don't know if anybody has heard of quiet hiring. It's the new phrase that's going around, and that's all about how you recruit from within. So actually, you know, if you're finding it challenging to recruit a role, think about how can you look to develop from within, and, you know, whether that's succession planning, build the capabilities and skills within your existing workforce, and look to see how you can hire from within. It doesn't necessarily have to always be automatically external recruitment that you undertake. And the employee value proposition, you may have heard of that phrase. It's about how you position yourself in the market compared to your competitors. It's the selling point of your business, the values, the goals, the culture, and it's defining who you are as an organisation. And that can be a massive selling tool. So it can help massively in recruitment because you can stand out from your competitors when you're trying to get the best talent, but also from an employee retention point of view, having that clearly defined EVP of your organisation and what you stand for, and communicating that effectively with your workforce can help retain your employees. Retention, things like onboarding. So we have the probation process, but actually it's more than just your probation process. It's about how you integrate your new starters into the organisation for the first 6 months. You know, making sure they're educated on the policies, the cultures, the values, behaviours that you want to see, and making sure that they get the right training, because ultimately that's, I guess, the most critical part in their employee life cycle, because if you get it wrong, then you're going to see people leave early on and you've spent all that time recruiting and training. So onboarding is actually fundamental. Employee engagement surveys as well, find out how your employees are feeling, just in terms of the organisational culture, leadership, communications. That's a good way to pick up ways in which you can address your retention issues. Things like recognition schemes, they don't always have to be financial. Non-financial are also helpful, and so it's important to recognise where can you improve on your recognition within your workforce to help retain your employees. And EVP, again, so as I said, the employee value proposition is obviously going to be key in how you effectively communicate that. Capability, as I said, quiet hiring is going to be key with the recruitment challenges, succession planning, you know, making sure you've got a career path lined up for roles in your organisations. Apprenticeships, that's a great way of upskilling and bringing new people and developing their skills, and on the job development, so work shadowing, getting people involved in project work, cross-functional working, you know, it all helps with people's capabilities and development. And pay. So obviously internal external benchmarking is really important to make sure you can remain competitive, which is obviously very challenging at the moment. You know, and consider an alternative for pay rises. You know, can you offer bonuses? You know, people are really struggling more than ever at the moment with the cost of living. You know, that all impacts on mental health. And think about, can you introduce some financial wellbeing policy that sets out and tells your employees that you care about them, you're supporting them, and you're going to do whatever you can to help support them through this pay crisis. And the final part is mental health. So think about, will an employee assistance programme benefit your workforce? You know, 85% of our respondents said mental health was their biggest health and safety challenge. So think about, can you introduce that where it gives them that confidential access to counselling? Mental health first aiders, can you train people up to become mental health first aiders? And are those in the business can be the point of contact? Or wellbeing ambassadors that are there for any sort of support to your workforce through these challenging times. And obviously line management is really key and important, whether it's managing sickness absence to do with mental health, or, you know, recognising the signs. So there's lots of ways that you can help tackle the mental health crisis. So this is just a summary of what we've gone through and those areas. And then just quickly before I wrap up, because I'm just conscious of time, so just things to look out for. The one thing I would say is the retained EU law due in December 2023. So things like your working time directive that sets maximum hours, fixed term workers, agency workers, you name it. Potentially that could all be scrapped December 2023 unless Parliament agree amendments to it or to keep it. So there's a bit of a time bomb that's about to sort of explode, if you like, because there's a sunset clause in that bill that says come December 2023, if there's not been any amendments, then basically it's been abolished. So that's going to be fundamental. So keep up to date with news on our website, because we'll always be posting updates on that. And then in the pipeline, these are bills that are currently through Parliament. Most of them are actually at the House of Lords stage, which is basically the penultimate stage before they get royal assent. So you've got the strikers, minimum service level bills. I suppose the ones I would pick out would be, we've got the dismissal and re-engagement code of practice. So on the back of the P&O disaster last year, where they made 800 people redundant, the government are now bringing in that code of practice to ensure employers follow fair and reasonable process for when they manage those situations. And then we could see new leave entitlement in regards to neonatal leave, carers leave. So there's a lot going on. We're keeping a close eye on it, so just keep informed and up to date. You know, check out our website, and because we're always posting updates on that. And we are running a webinar tomorrow, so I'll be going through that in more detail. And then there's lots of other webinars for the year ahead that are going to deal with those. We're running a virtual employment law seminar next month on the 22nd. For a couple of hours. It's free to attend, and we're going to run through all of that in more detail and just bring you up to speed in what we expect to see happening in the months ahead. And these are our training courses that we run. Should you need any support, whether it's recruitment, managing poor performers, leading the team, etc., etc., so do get in touch. There's a link there. Health and safety as well, not to forget the health and safety. In fact, the second highest answer in the report was compliance. So these are just some examples of the training courses that we can run. I mentioned webinars. We run a free webinar on a monthly basis. These are the areas coming up. So as I said, tomorrow is about the 10 key areas for managing people in 2023. And then we've got several others, and I'm in the middle of writing the next schedule as to what topics we're going to cover. Any questions?